Oh, praise the Lord. I apologize because I'm sure many of you were expecting Debbie Clark to do this, but she's not well this morning, and so I hope you will find me an acceptable replacement. But we have to, I have to be honest with you, we have to summarize this a bit because it's like 13 pages here. And I assure you it would take longer than Pastor's sermon, especially since I'm the one reading it. So we're going to do our best to summarize these, and it's not to exclude anyone or the greatness of their accomplishments. It's just the practicality of time served here. So 5 after, okay. I always look at that, but it doesn't really mean anything, you know. But anyways, special occasions, dinners and services for 2024. We had started the year with a New Year's service and began with communion. We served communion on 10 occasions for the year of 2024. We had 4 joint services with Jamestown. As you know, we share back and forth with Jamestown, a very close sister church. There was a Zion Spring Convention, a Zion Autumn Convention, and the installation ordination of our dear assistant pastor and his lovely wife, who I adore. She's my daughter. But and then we had also a cookout at Jamestown, a Christmas Eve service, and a New Year's Eve service with communion. Visiting ministries this year, in 2024, Reverend Norman Holmes. We had a Gideon speaker, Reverend Paul Karam, Pastor Dan's brother, and Reverend Aaron Viola from the Jamestown Church. We also started doing monthly videos. I don't know if did we start them in 2024 or did we do them in 2023 as well?
You might have started it.
Yeah, okay. But, and so we had it in our hearts to, convey some of the missionaries of the past and some of the godly men and women of the past. And so during the monthly videos, we saw David Livingston, William Carey, St. Patrick, John Huss, John Wycliffe, William Tyndale, John Bunyan, Martin Luther, Pilgrim Venture, and the Three Kings. We had Zion, had 3 board meetings, and Erie, we had 2 church board meetings. Now, pastors' teaching and preaching sessions at Zion and other places, a 6-part series on the book of Revelations in the home church, and Corinthian teaching video at Zion. They are have been putting together video teachings. And so, in fact, I think when you go, you're going to do part 2, 2 Corinthians. I don't understand how it works. He gets all this time to do 1st and 2 Corinthians, and yet I've got 12 hours I've got to fill with 4 chapters of Philippians. So that seems imbalanced there. But anyways, I'm just grateful for the opportunity.
You can skip over. Just get to the total on that.
Get to the total on that? Okay, so the total, we do have a lot of material here, so I appreciate that very much. We had, pastor, I should say, had a total of 35 Sunday messages in the home church, which is actually way below, I think, what he's normally accustomed to.
Have to make room for these other gentlemen.
Yeah. Raising ministries is what this church has always been about, and so other opportunities, including myself, the assistant pastor, and Marlon and others as well. 35 Sunday messages at the home church for a total of 116 sessions total that pastor participated in throughout the year. Members presently overseas, Reverend Swaroop in India, Sister Anila in Israel, Brother Sandeep in Scotland, Sister Sandia in Scotland, and Reverend Tim and Sister Joanne O'Connell in Singapore.
We had those 5 that we installed too. I didn't.
Correct. We had, in fact, they were posted on the bulletin board when we were in Hyderabad, India. Last year, Pastor and I had the privilege to assist Pastor Swaroop, Reverend Swaroop, in installing 5 leaders in his church. And again, their pictures are on the bulletin board, so please become familiar with them. Church marriages, death, baby dedications, water Baptisms, installations, with the exception of the installation, we've had none, but the installation we did have with Josiah and Leah, and we're very grateful for them. No building projects and no youth retreats this year. Other church news, though, this year, 2024, I should say, last year now, Pastor Dan's book that he worked in collaboration with his brother on was actually translated into the Finnish language. And so we're hoping that that translates to opportunities in the future. I've had some opportunities myself this year, just summarizing spring convention, twice in ZMI, and I went with Pastor this year to India, caught the vision for India. My heart is now burning for India. We did seminars in 3 different locations while we were there. Pastor Josiah and I actually went to Ethiopia for the second time, teaching the same subject as we taught the last time, and we're getting quite adept at going back and forth on that. And then I did Zoom, Guatemala Zoom, Mexico City. We did a seminar, and then 12 messages in Erie, and for a total of 105 sessions. The Pastor Swarup, Reverend Swarup, this is where the list gets very long. You know, we desire to have fruit abroad, and it appears as though the fruit abroad is outpacing us locally. And so when we're very happy about that, we're thrilled about that, because that's really the law of reciprocity, isn't it? You plant one seed and you gain many. One kernel of corn produces hundreds of kernels. So Reverend Swarup in India had 77 teachings on Zion subjects. And I should mention for all of these brethren in India that they did these teaching in multiple locations. So it's actually exponential of what we're reporting here. And so the leaders that Pastor Swarup has raised up there, and that we had the privilege of ordaining, I guess you would say, or installing at least, not ordaining, but licensing and installing, in each of the teaching opportunities that they had, they did it in multiple locations. And so it's kind of exponential, the number that's being reported. Reverend Swarup preached 90 times in his home church. 90 times. And 20 times in other churches. We got to get going. There were 13 baptisms that he participated in at Panyam. No, that's not the mispronunciation of Penyan. Panyam is actually one of the places we did a seminar in India. 7 baptisms in Hyderabad, and 5 persons installed as trainee pastors at Hyderabad. These are the 5 that we were talking about, that Pastor and I had the privilege of getting to meet and even travel with and minister with, and then eventually install. There were 9 cities in India that Reverend Swarup ministered in, 9 cities. And one of the people that we installed is Brother Pradeep, and he had 5 Zion teachings, again, in 3 different locations. So that you can multiply those numbers. And they were full courses. And then there were 8 preachings in his local assembly as well, which would be Reverend Swarup's. Brother Vinay, 5 Zion teaching and courses, again, in these different cities in India, Hyderabad, Vijayawada, Karamanangar, and Panyam. Although I was at each of these places, I'm not sure I'm getting the pronunciation on those correct. And then there were 8 times that Brother Vinay preached in his own service, which would include also the Thanksgiving service. As you remember, they have adopted our Thanksgiving tradition and have made it their own. And he, Brother Vinay, also traveled in 6 cities and ministered. Brother Prasad, again, 9 Zion teaching courses in different places, times 3, because, there were 9 different teachings that he taught, but he taught them in basically the same places that we conducted seminars when we were there. And then there were 5 times that he was able to preach in the church as well. And 8 cities of ministry for our brother as well. Brother Morali, 4 Zion courses in 3 cities and 14 preachings. And again, the same thing applies. These are multiple teachings in multiple cities. And then he traveled to 7 cities of ministry in India as well. These are all men, referring to the men that we had helped install. Brother Jacob, he taught 4 Zion courses and 2 different cities, so 4 times 2, you get the idea. And then 49 preachings and 6 cities that he ministered in. Sister Neela in Israel, in Mount Zion Bible School in Israel, had three Zion courses that she taught, and she preached 1 time aside from these as well. And then Pastor Sandia in Dundee, Scotland. You heard Pastor mention her many times. She taught 4 Zion courses in Scotland, in Dundee, Scotland. So Zion courses are being taught in Scotland. I have had the privilege of talking to Sister Sandia myself while we were in England, and she's extended the offer to come there. So we're just waiting for the right opportunity to be able to follow up with that. And she had preached 50 times, I believe, 12 times actually in Scotland, in Telugu, the Telugu Fellowship, and then approximately 50 times in the church in Israel. So again, very, very busy. And then we have Pastor Ravender and Sister Shruti, Sons of Ministry in Nalgonda. This is a new place for me. I haven't heard of this before. 2 Zion courses they taught. And again, this is the idea of the branch going over the wall. The people that were raised up are raising up people who are raising up people. You know, the laws of reciprocity here. So we're very happy to see that. And by the way, this Bible school in Nalgonda has 75 students for this year in the Bible school that are all receiving the Zion teaching. And is that important that they're receiving the Zion teaching? It is uber important, because we have been called to teach what has been delivered to us. We're not teaching the Methodist doctrine. We're not teaching the Baptist doctrine, because God delivered to us a burden that at the end of days we're going to give account for. What we did with what God has delivered to us. And we can see from this report that we have to go quickly. I guess I'm the guy to do that because I kind of talk fast. But we can see the amount of ministry that's being replicated, the Zion ministry. A pastor asked me one time in a certain country, why are we doing all of this? I said, because the message must get out. We must propagate that which God has invested in us. It is very important, because we're going to be held accountable as we stand before the Lord with what we have done, with what He delivered to us. And then we have Sister Sandia, again in Dundee here. I don't know if this is a duplication here, but there were 6 Zion courses that were taught in Dundee, and then 12 Zion teachings. It looks like there's a comment here that God opened up a door to minister in Edinburgh, Scotland, by Sister Sandia. So we're very happy to hear about that, and may we be able to follow up with some of that. And I also saw in here there was somebody, I think it was Sister Sandia. Yes, I think it was Sister Sandia, where she had the opportunity to participate in a weaning service. Do you remember the weaning service, Pastor? We were participating in a weaning service in India last year, which I had never heard of before, and yet it's a beautiful little ceremony that they conduct in some of these other countries, where a child for the very first time, when it eats, or he or she eats solid food and is no longer nursing, comes into the church, and the ministry actually deliver the first amount of food to the newborn. And so I think Pastor may have participated in something like that before, but it was new to me, and so I'm standing there kind of...
Spoon of food to the baby.
What are we doing? What happened here? But it was kind of a wonderful little thing. And then you pray for the child and say, Lord, as this child is participating in eating solid food, let them also be able to digest the solid food of the Word of God. So it's actually quite a blessed little ceremony and kind of a nice thing. So I see Sister Sandia had mentioned that she had participated in a weaning ceremony, and unless that's explained to you, you might not know what that means. But that's wonderful, how wonderful that is. And so Sister Sandia also had the opportunity to participate in 36 ministries in Israel. Pastor Josiah and Leah had fruitfulness themselves in 2024. They ministered in the spring convention. Leah and Josiah led worship for the youth meeting and participated in special music. The July 7th ordination service that took place here, and then spoke and led worship at the youth camp and were camp counselors. And of course in August, he traveled with me to Ethiopia, and we made a special little stop in England for 13 hours to run down in the city and take a look around, and had a chance to see a theft in process, but we couldn't quite interfere with it and stop it, so we kind of missed out on that. And then during the fall convention, Pastor Josiah, if you remember, shared a testimony on Ethiopia, and then spoke for the youth meeting. And Marlon and Leah both led worship for the youth meeting, and we are very gratified to see that. I am coming to the finally, my brethren. This year in Singapore, Pastor Tim, Reverend Tim, had mentioned that his traveling had been reduced this year quite a bit, and we all kind of experienced that as well. Both Pastor and I's numbers are lower than what we're normally used to, but other people, it appears, are picking up the slack. So Pastor Tim spoke at a pastoral staff conference held earlier in 2024 in Indonesia, and he ministered from the pulpit in the Lighthouse Church many times throughout the year, as well as 3 other churches in a rotational basis.
Mention the fact that there's 8,000 in his home church.
There's 8,000, in case you didn't hear him, there's 8,000 in Pastor Tim's home church. So when he shares a Sunday morning service, he has an audience of 8,000 people. Where are we at on our YouTube? We're like 15, we're not quite there yet. But at any rate, I think you'll agree, a very fruitful year from a very small body. And, over the years, God has given us the ability to plant our spiritual seed in many different places. And that's what Abraham said. He said, God has caused me to wander in many different places. And so we praise God for that, and we trust that's a blessing for all of the saints to hear.
Beautiful, something good.
Before we do the concluding song, can you give me 30 seconds up there?
Yeah.
I have to
30 seconds.
I have to fix something that I omitted earlier.
Okay.
Since it's being recorded, I want to make sure it gets recorded. So that means, Jeff, this will have to be edited in to the edition report. In my haste to get through the list very quickly, I forgot to mention 2 very important events. Marlon and Liz went back to El Salvador and facilitated a seminar for Pastor Vestini, and Marlon and Liz were very instrumental in doing that. And my fearful daughter Elizabeth actually went on the radio to do an interview while she was down there to testify. And then also, Marlon conducted a series of seminars down in Virginia, and I don't want to mention that. So I don't want to forget to mention that. So Jeff, in your expertise, if you could somehow edit that back in. Yeah, he's frowning right now.